right, guys, we're at the Roofing Process Conference. I have very special treat for you. Kevin Harrington, absolutely amazing entrepreneur, original Shark Tank, and of course, we all know him by RoofMaxx. He has 20 locations, and I want to make this short interview after his keynote. Keynote will be available at our channel as well, but I want to make it about entrepreneurship. So my first question to you, Kevin, is this. Are you born entrepreneur or you become entrepreneur? Is it something we're born with?
You know, it's a great question. I do believe some people are born with sort of an easier way to become an entrepreneur, okay? I mean, I feel fortunate. My father was an entrepreneur, and he did not want a job. He wanted to own his own business and open bars and restaurants. And then I flowed into that, and I loved that freedom that he had. And so I can't say that I was born for this, but I certainly feel that I had something innate inside of me that made me more oriented towards entrepreneurship. But I do believe that you can teach entrepreneurship, absolutely. With the right mentors in your life, I think anybody that really wants to be an entrepreneur, even if they're not, they have the ability to do it.
I have 5 kids, and I already recognize my second. He is just different breed. He sells candies to his sisters. He actually sold 3 quarters for $1. They needed quarters, and he's like, okay, you want quarters? 3 quarters for $1. I'm like, they're your sisters. But that's how
he's a businessman.
Yes, yes.
He's an entrepreneur, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, but the question is, how can you teach your kids that? Like, what's the process? Because if I look at 5 of my kids and I say, okay, I have an artist. Like, she's an artist, my oldest. She wrote 500-page book already by the age of 13 about dragons. I'm like, okay, she's artist, he's entrepreneur. How do you teach and how do you cultivate it?
So, I mean, for example, as a shark on Shark Tank, I go to grade schools, I go to high schools, I go to colleges, universities, all around the world. And what we talk about are, I do various things. Number one, I take a few pitches, so that's, so I teach kids I say, find an opportunity, find a problem that's not being solved currently, right? What's a problem in the market? And so, like, I have kids, and every now and then one of them will bring an eye and say, hey, Dad, here's something, a problem around the house not being solved. This is how inventors come up with inventions, solving problems, right?
This is one of the videos from Roofing Process Conference that you can find on YouTube. Unfortunately, we cannot make them all available because it's very unique information. We don't want the whole world to see. It's a private. Companies like Monarch Roofing, Eustace Roofing, one of the best people in business, shared with us how they do business. Some content will be published on YouTube later, but most presentations and keynotes will be only available privately. You can find them in 2 places. One is Roofing School. You can sign up for just $197 a month and you can cancel anytime. They're available to all students, all levels. And second one, you can go to roofconference.com and buy video package, official recordings of 2021 Roofing Process Conference. Creator of the Year, Adam Bensman and Eric Reno will share their presentations there. Eustace Roofing and Monarch Roofing Company of the Year shares their presentations, and a lot of content that took place during the conference will be available only on those 2 platforms. If you buy it at roofconference.com, we will send you all the links. And if you are a student at roofing school, you don't have to pay extra. You will find a folder there, 2021 Roofing Process Conference, and you will see all the videos. We are working on them as we speak. Every week we're uploading 4 or 5 presentations from the conference. You're gonna absolutely enjoy them and you will have return on investment. $200 is nothing for the content you're getting this time around. Now let's go back to Kevin Harrington.
But I say to the kids today that take your passion, right? And you mentioned, your son wrote a book on dragons?
No, my oldest daughter. Yeah.
On dragons, right? Now, if she's very passionate about that, there's a business there. She could be an entrepreneur creating content, getting followers, because let me explain how that works. The more followers you have, the more revenue you make off of your social media. So if she wants to build a business, just about her passion, she can do it. And that's the beauty of today. In the old days,
any artist can become a businessman.
Any artist can be a business person, can be an entrepreneur, and there's a great opportunity. Especially the internet and social media has opened this for everybody.
And I absolutely love it. I recently watched a video, fittest man on earth, Matt Fraser. He won CrossFit Games 5 times. And now he has like 5 businesses. He has protein shakes, so like he's an athlete. And
Exactly.
he became entrepreneur because of this. He started his YouTube channel, and I think he has 40,000 subscribers from the first 2 days because he won CrossFit Games 5 times.
Exactly.
And now instantly it just jump starts to everything. And now he's managing. He's like, I'm not a businessman. I'm an athlete, but he has a team. And
now he has the team, and that's one of the key things. So let's talk about it. You said, can you learn how to be an entrepreneur, or do you have to be born? If you have a desire to be successful, make money, build something, now go look at that, but don't be afraid to surround yourself with a few experts that might be able to help you get there faster. And that's what I do. I give people a jump start and a quicker access to success in their business.
would you agree that entrepreneurs mainly money-driven people?
Mind-driven?
Money-driven.
Money-driven.
Are you money-driven? What drives you the most?
So, my wife says to me quite often, she says, Kevin, she said, why do you help so many entrepreneurs and don't get paid all the time, right? I mean, I do get paid, in my business, but she's like, you're so busy, you're traveling the world, but you're helping entrepreneurs and there's no compensation. I'm like, look, I said, yes, you have to set the path as an entrepreneur to be a profitable entrepreneur. Nobody wants to have sales and not have profits, right? Because then you can't pay your bills. So I say you need to focus on being successful, but money isn't the overall factor for me. I like empowering people. I like taking people's ideas, and I'll give you an example. 3 years ago, a guy came to me, had failed with his product launch. He had invested his life savings and laid this on my desk and said, can you help me? And so it becomes my passion at that point to help, to figure out a way. Well, that product has now become a $100 million success, and this gentleman's made millions in the process, and it's like, it started with the desire to help, and yes, money was made in the process.
Who shouldn't open a business?
Well, okay. Let's put it this way: if you're afraid of too many things, if you don't have a passion for something, I mean, people think they should be opening a business, so sometimes they'll just kind of half-ass it, so to speak. Okay, but in today's world, you have to do it the right way. Okay, you don't want to play around. Get good advice. And there's also legalities. Like, for example, I know somebody that said, you know what, I'm just going to test something on Amazon. Well, they did, but they screwed up their process. They got thrown off, and Amazon doesn't want them back now. Okay, so don't be a halfway entrepreneur. If you're going to do it right. And so for those, the answer to the question, who shouldn't do it? Those that don't have passion or confidence. If that's not you, don't go do it, because you're going to have enough headaches, roadblocks, problems, challenges that you need to really come in with just an unbelievably powerful mind to start.
You hire and employ a lot of people in your businesses through the years. My question is, when you're about to hire a person and you see that he has that entrepreneur spirit, like maybe he will be competing against you later. So do you look at who's going to be loyal employee or who's a potential threat that might take away your business because they are? Do you look at those things?
You have to.
How do you spot entrepreneur?
Yes, I tend to move towards entrepreneurs because I'm an entrepreneur, so I get along and etc. But this is the difference. You don't want to make an entrepreneur an employee that's on a weekly salary with a cap to the amount of money they can make, because they're going to try to figure out how can they make more, and get around that, right? And so I'm not saying that they're going to be dishonest necessarily, but they may hit a point where they're like, look, I had a guy, I invested up front, I didn't realize how entrepreneurial he was. As he was going and he was seeing all the great things we were doing, he got so excited that he wanted to own his own business. So I spent 18 months training this kid, and then he left and started his own business. So you got to be careful. Now, what I encourage in those situations is partner with them at that point. If you've invested all that time to help them get to a point, and now they're going to go off on their own, maybe you can be involved in some kind of mentoring, partnering, maybe a little investment, or maybe no investment, but
maybe give them stake of the company.
Maybe it's time to bring them a little piece of equity in your company also, right? Yeah.
Great. We actually have a lot of it happening in the roofing business because salespeople tend to come, learn they have the cap, and they leave and start on their own.
Start their own, contract it out.
Yep. What are the levels in a small, big business do you see? Like we have a small business owners probably until like, I don't know, what's the cap? $50 million? When is a big business for you? You have like some massive brands. Give me like a scale from small to big. And I start a lot of businesses from scratch. So we start from zero, and we built 20 to over 100 million, 5 to over 500 million, 2 to over $1 billion. And then how do you build something like $1 billion?
I mean, so I've talked about this company, Celsius, for example. Celsius, we've used massive amount of Instagram influencers. And so we're not on television, but these influencers are putting the word out. And now we're using some celebrity influencers. So, this is the modern day media, is utilizing some of these techniques. But the bottom line is that one of the keys to success in this regard is raising capital. Because if you when I built my first business to 50 million, I flatlined. We couldn't grow any faster because we were using our profits to fund the business. But we hit a wall, and so when I raised $3 million, that took us to 150 million. And then we raised 10 million, and that took us to 500. So the key to success ultimately in building billion-dollar businesses or $100 million businesses is the ability to raise capital.
So you have to you have to have money to...
You can't do it all. I mean, I'm not saying you've got to invest it yourself.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, you don't have to have a dime to build a billion-dollar business, but you have to be able to raise money to build that business.
So it's almost impossible to build billion-dollar companies without raising money. Is it because of capitalism, or like what's behind it?
Look, let's put it this way. If you're in the roofing business, you sell a big job, you got to go out and buy all the materials.
Yeah.
You got and buy the materials, pay for the labor, and wait to get paid, or or whatever may be possible. Yeah. If you're dealing with corporations that are going to pay 30 days later, right? So if you got 10 jobs, you better get some financing somewhere, some way. But in the product business, when we're running knives and kitchen products and fitness products with Tony Little, we've got to buy the inventory. When someone orders it, they don't want to wait 2 months. I can't get the order and now go buy the product and ship it. That'll take 90 days, and they're not going to want it. I need the money to finance the inventory. So I started talking to investors and banks way back, and that's how we built billion-dollar brands in the scene and TV business. But it's critical to have access. And I don't mean, when I say access to capital, I don't mean you got a rich uncle that's just going to write you checks. I mean, you know how to go raise capital, and there's a technique to do that.
Can you share, what are some techniques? How do you raise the capital?
Well, first of all, I could spend hours on the subject. Sure. The first thing that we do is, people go, they go to people close to them, so angels and friends and relatives and all of that. But very quickly after that, we're doing amazing things crowdfunding wise. We're on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, but have you ever heard of Start Engine, for example?
Yes.
Or Republic.co? We've got many campaigns on equity crowdfunding sites now. So you can use equity crowdfunding sites. We use investment bankers.
So if I want to, let's say I'm building $1 billion company now, and I want to I actually already have we have a platform, and I ask roofers who would invest, and I have over 100 emails in one day just say I'll throw $5K in it because they believe in me, they believe in the idea. So what would you recommend? What platform would you recommend to get public funding like that from your community?
Yeah, I mean, so there's two ways to go, but Start Engine is a equity crowdfunding. So let's say, do you have a valuation on the business yet?
Roughly. So let's say it's $5 million.
$5 million, okay? So you could go to a Start Engine, a Republic, and say, okay, here's my business, the idea of the business, and it's a $5 million valuation. We want to raise $1 million, and we're going to give away 20%. So now what you do is you got to shoot some videos, tell the story, build the site, and then you need to drive traffic to that site. Okay?
We already have all of that.
Okay, so now, but it's all in the story. Now, once you get momentum on these sites, a lot of people don't realize this, you can buy ads on the sites that self-liquidate. So, in other words, if you're on Start, and not every site does this, but certain of the sites, you can actually go spend $10,000, and you spend $10,000, at the end of the day, $50,000 has come in money raised. So what you have is a 20% cost to acquire the money, but now so all of a sudden, you're doing 50 grand a day, a week, whatever. Before you know it, you got $1 million.
And whose money it is? Is it your community or is it?
It's a combination, but it's good if you have a couple dollars to be able to kind of start it. But it's your friends and your relatives and your community,
so anybody
and then the community of the.
And how is it tracked? So let's say next year it's $20 million valuation, and can they sell share kind of deal?
Well, if you have
if they want to get out,
they could sell it privately to somebody. But you as the owner of the company may want to have first option to buy it, because you don't maybe they sell it to somebody. Yeah, they may sell it to somebody you don't want.
And platform will determine the value.
Well, you have to determine that up front with the platform folks.
Yeah.
So I'm doing dozens of these campaigns. I'd love to connect with you and help you out.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Name biggest lesson, or maybe few lessons from Shark Tank. What have you learned that you did not know before going in?
Oh boy. So, Shark Tank created a very crazy situation out there in the market, because these entrepreneurs, they thought getting on Shark Tank was like hitting the lottery. Like, I got money, that's it. So one of the first deals that I did, I invested $500,000 into a woman's business for 50% equity, and she was so excited. And so I got her on Home Shopping Network. She had a great product. And she came to town, and we picked her up at the airport, stayed at my house. My wife cooked for her, and 6 months later, she sends a big pile of stuff in the mail. My wife says, she screamed. I'm like, what happened? She said, that woman you gave $500,000, she closed the doors and sent you unpaid bills for $38,000 and said, good luck, Shark, I'm out. Wow. And I'm like, what the heck is this? It's like, she said, I thought that it was just going to be an instant success overnight. And I'm like, this is not entrepreneurship is tough. It's a struggle. You got to grind. And so she had my money. She's out. Guess what? She didn't care, because it was my money. And so I'm very particular now. To be honest with you, a lot of the Shark Tank deals were tough deals because of that mentality. Whereas if you come in to invest money in an entrepreneur that isn't expecting this lottery situation, it's a different world. So I just say that was one thing, but there was one other really, that was a negative about Shark Tank, is the people sometimes weren't as focused after they got the money. But one of the beautiful things, think about this. I'm sitting there negotiating with somebody about whether I'm going to invest, but I know that this segment is being seen by 10 million people live, and it's going to rerun dozens of times. So if I give the guy $100,000 and I'm his partner, I'm going to have a 6-minute segment on ABC Network and all of CNBC for years to come. We're going to go really use that to drive the business. So there's a guy that went on Shark Tank that didn't get a deal, that did $1 million in sales the night of the show. So that's something that people don't always know, is that even if you don't get a deal,
It's exposure.
you still get some great exposure.
So give advice to entrepreneurs who are looking for investments, maybe thinking about going Shark Tank or about to raise capital.
Well, I think number one, the biggest piece of advice I can give is to create, I call it a dream team. Surround yourself. Because like me, I'm very good in marketing, and I was making investor pitch in the old days. And they're like, Kevin, we know you're good at sales and marketing. Who's going to count the money? Who's going to do the books? And so until I could convince the investors that I had quality people at all levels, I learned early that investors look for teams, not just the jockey. In fact, that's an erroneous term, that I invest and bet on the jockey. I went head to head with O'Leary on one of the shows. O'Leary said, I'm going to bet on the jockey. And I said, guess what? I lost the most money on bad deals betting on jockeys because they didn't have a trainer and they didn't have a doctor and they didn't have all the other people around them. That jockey, that horse has been in a stable in a training grounds for its whole life, and now the jockey's going to jump on it and know it for 2 minutes. It's like you need the dream team. So that's what I tell people. And by the way, I had a project where with the right kind of resumes, surrounding yourself, money can start flowing because people, this guy's part of this. Well, I'll trust that guy with my money. So surround yourself with experts, make it happen.
How many total businesses do you have invested or part of right now?
Well, so I've invested in over 1,000 deals over the years.
Wow.
Yeah.
In what?
Hundreds.
How many years?
Well, that would go back, over 30 years now.
Wow.
But in the last 10 years, more than 100. And so I own equity now, and I sit on 35 equity investments, and then I'm on 9 board of directors and advisory boards. So somewhere in the range of just shy of 50 in terms of companies active businesses that I'm involved with.
Well, what do your day consist of? How many hours do you work, and how busy and packed and your schedule, and how far are you booked?
So the good news is this: in the old days, I would run the companies that I would invest in because I didn't want to trust somebody to take my money and run with it, right?
Sure.
So, and I mentioned on Shark Tank, all of a sudden, I give $500,000 and it's gone. Well, I think that I am not the CEO of any company. Of all 40 plus companies that I'm involved with, I'm an advisor, I'm a consultant, I'm a mentor, I'm a board member, I'm on the advisory board. What I want to do is give my wisdom and move on. So the reality is this. Yes, I have board meetings and conference calls and Zooms and that every single day, but I've got 2 full-time lawyers, I've got full-time digital marketing people, I've got a core team of 15 really solid folks that run all of those businesses with me, but I'm not responsible for any one thing on a day-to-day basis, which is the key to being able to do that.
Do you have mentors yourself? Almost done.
Yeah.
Do you have mentors?
I do have mentors, yes. I have, Richard Branson was a mentor to me when I went down to hang out with him at his island, Necker Island. That was a lot of fun. Tony Robbins. I've also, in the world of digital marketing, there's a gentleman, his name is, I'll think of it, but he started ClickFunnels. You may know Russell Brunson, right? Brunson. Yeah, okay. So I sat with Russell for hours, long before he ever started ClickFunnels.
Wow.
And asked him to mentor me. And so this is what smart people do, is they go to get to the right people. In fact, Zig Ziglar was a mentor way back, and he's now gone for about 10 years. But I believe that mentors can change your life and give you some great direction.
Absolutely. What kind of content you consume? What motivates you? Motivational videos, maybe some YouTube channels, or what kind of content?
So I hate to say that I'm old school entrepreneur, but yes, I am. I am not as much into consuming all of the digital content that's out there. I mean, yes. I mean, I still watch television, okay? Because I get a $350 a month cable bill, okay? So the movies and the sport. I am a sports nut, so I love football, I love golf. As a young kid, I played I wrestled, I did golf, I did football and baseball and basketball. So I love all that kind of stuff, but I consume lots of internet content daily, but I like current events. And then, of course, I like to dive deeper and listen to, I'll listen to podcasts with a Russell Brunson, with a Tony Robbins and a Dean Grazioso or whoever. There's always these new things coming out. So I stay in touch, but I've got younger kids. I let them tell me also what I should be watching. So, for example, the other day, I'm doing this deal with a guy. He's called Mr. Beast. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, I met him a couple weeks ago.
I never heard of him. And I'm telling my son, hey, we're talking to Mr. Beast, and they're like, oh my God, this guy's unbelievable. I'm like,
what kind of deal are you doing with him?
We're one of our companies. We're talking about joining our company and having some equity and being the face. So, but I love that kind of stuff. But this is why my kids are like, oh, Dad, you got to get that guy. Okay, so now we had some tentative conversation, but now I'm like highly energized to go get Mr. Beast on a deal, right? So I love this.
What are your thoughts on massive exodus in the labor force?
About to say it again?
Like the labor shortages and exodus in the labor force, how many people quit? I read a report like in September, it was like a record, like 3 million people quit their jobs.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
So my thoughts are this. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have a job. So I don't have a problem with anybody that doesn't want a job, okay? My kids don't have jobs. They're entrepreneurs. So I say this. I mean, Uber has hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurial drivers, okay? They're not employees. They're not hourly. They're getting paid. They own their own business. And so, I mean, there's this thing called the gig economy, right? And there's so many gig opportunities that are out there for you to own your own business. And I believe this is a good way to put your toe in the water. And let me say it this way. I know people that have a full-time job and they work 40 hours a week, but they deliver stuff on the side in the evenings and the weekends, and they have a little business. So I call it, I say, one of the books I wrote is 100 of the best spare time business opportunities in America today. And the reason being is I say, don't quit your job tomorrow. Get a little bit of side hustle going first, right? So keep your income. You don't want to be not able to pay the bills, right? Get a side hustle, and when that starts generating enough revenue, you can now consider maybe a role to no longer be an employee and be an entrepreneur.
Love it. Give one advice to roofers.
To roofers?
Yeah.
Okay. if you're a roofer, I'm going to say this. I've been talking a lot today here at the Roofing Process Conference, and Dimitri kind enough to bring me in as a keynote speaker. But I want to tell you that it's important that you as an entrepreneur in your local markets, you should go about brand building activities. And this is, speaking at different events, getting on some talk shows, getting on some radio shows, podcasting, building, just start very slow. You can getting press releases about your business and some stories in the newspaper, et cetera, et cetera. You can do these things for pennies. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and before you know it, a year or two down the road, you can be a famous person in your marketplace. And I don't mean famous from a celebrity standpoint, I mean famous from a business standpoint with cash in your pocket.
Love it.
Okay.
The last one is selfishly for myself. You wrote many books. I want to write my first book. I'm working on it. Give me advice on how do you go about writing your first book? What's the process?
Okay, so if you want to write a book, there's several ways. One of my first books I wrote, I wanted the biggest and the best writer. because I don't write, and I assume you need a writer to write it, or can you write?
I can write, but I need a ghostwriter to proofread.
Gotcha. Okay. So I hired one of the best writers. He had New York Times bestseller. He wrote Stephen Jobs' book called Icon.
Okay.
And New York Times bestseller. He came to me and said, I want to write your book. And I paid him a lot of money, and it took 2 years. And I spent $100,000+ writing that book, 2 years to launch it. I don't recommend that. You can write a book today. I wrote another book. I sat with a writer, because I use ghostwriters also. Yeah. Sat with a writer for 3 hours and turned the recorder on. And I said, send me back an outline of that, and I'll pay you, to do all of this. And so now we had an outline of 20 chapters, and then we did a deep dive with more meetings to fill in the chapters, 2 more meetings. I had 3 total meetings, probably 10 total hours. I had the manuscript of a book that was ready to go within 30 days, and we launched that book in 60 days. I printed it myself and self-published it. And so if you want to write a book and have it on the market in 60 days, you can do it for thousands of dollars, not tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. But if you're going to write a book, you may want to do it a little differently, but get a great ghostwriter. And one question is, do you want to self-publish or do you want to get a publisher? Because a publisher can slow it all up big time. It can take you, do you have a publisher yet?
No.
It can take a year or 2 to sell a publisher on publishing your book, because they want to know if they're going to print 10,000 copies that they're going to sell, and how you're going to help them promote it, right? So you can self-publish before, and maybe that's a step to do. Self-publish while you're talking to publishers about a publishing deal.
Love it. Guys,
Okay.
comment below, give it a like for Kevin Harrington, subscribe if you're new here. I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.